Brilliant Audio presents the unabridged recording of Sentries by Gary Paulsen, performed by Kate Rudd and Benjamin L. Darcie.
This book is dedicated to my son, Jim Paulsen, in hope.
1. Somewhere in Minnesota. Her grandfather was still alive. That was the problem. Sue Oldhorn was 17 and an Ojibwe Indian just out of school and at her first job, a real job at a bank running the accounts computer. And none of that was a problem. She had money and lived at home and would soon get a new car. Well, not new but new used. A blue Mustang. And none of that was a problem. But there was this difficulty. She worked hard all day and came home where her mother and her grandfather waited. Her father had been gone many years, and it was always the same. Always the same. She would sit down to the meal her mother had prepared, usually with food that Sue had bought with her money from her new job, and before she could even begin to eat, her grandfather would start. Always the same. "You are young," he would say. "You are young, and now you must listen. Now you must listen to this story." But he was old, very old, with deep wrinkles, not just in his face, but deep wrinkles in his mind, and when she thought of it at work sometimes, sitting at the computer console with the green numbers rolling before her, when she thought of it, she thought that he was still alive, and that was the problem. He has lived beyond the time when he should have lived, she thought, but not in the hard way it sounded. Not then. He was still alive and he remembered things that did not always fit with the way he lived now. In the small house on the outside of town with two women who took care of him and fed him. He was still alive, and in the wrinkles in his mind he remembered things to tell in his stories. Oh, God, she thought, sitting at the computer, such things he remembered. He was still alive, and last night when she came home to sit down to supper before the date she had with Bob from the bank, Bob who was tall and not a Robert, but a Bob who smiled inside. When she came home before a date with that Bob, her grandfather had put his fork down, and she sighed inwardly and even openly and put her fork down as well. "You are young," he started. "You are young and a woman, but now hear this story. Hear this story." And he had begun.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?